One day you come home and find out that a close family member has been in an accident and is lying in a hospital in a coma. Tests have been done to the person, and the results are uncertain as to whether this person that you knew will actually wake up and make a recovery. This family member never had any wants or desires written down in their will as to what should happen to them if they were ever found in this condition. So the responsibility of deciding whether they should be left on life support or whether they should be allowed to pass on from this life is that decision is yours and your family's. So what decision do you make? But due to the distorted image of the media, it portrays coma patients as perfectly healthy people that lie there for a little while and then all of a sudden they wake up, as in like Sleeping Beauty, you know? But in reality, 15% of non-traumatic coma patients make a satisfactory recovery. This leaves 85% of people that actually are in a coma to ever recover or wake up. I've studied this topic quite a bit, and I have a very strong opinion on it. So if you are in a situation where you must make a decision whether or not to keep somebody on life support, you should know the facts and some basic guidelines in order to help you make a good decision. A person who is on life support and has no written will, including their decision, creates many problems, such as a large hospital bill while the coma patient is in the hospital on intensive care, problems facing the family because there's so many disagreements as what to do with them, and also the suffering of the patient. In 1990, a young woman named Terri Schiavo collapsed in her home and fell into a coma. And they're not quite sure what happened, but she was taken to the hospital and tests were done, and they weren't certain as to whether she would wake up or not. So for the next 15 years, her parents and her husband let her lie in a hospital while lying in a coma. They gave her several years of therapy to keep her muscles worked up and to try and keep her healthy and to help her recover. But the prognosis was very grim. She was most likely not going to recover. And her husband began to lose hope, and he wanted to take her off life support. But her parents felt that they knew that she wanted to remain alive and wanted to keep her on life support for as long as possible because they had hope that she would wake up and she would be fine. So her parents and her husband went to court, and it was a really long and a very ugly court battle. And in the end, her husband won, and Terri was taken off life support, and she passed away. This is just one of many stories that has happened that portrays the problems that can be avoided if the person had a written will or if a basic law or rule was in place, such as letting the person stay on life support for a certain amount of time, and if they don't come up out of that time, then to let them pass on. A hospital is a very expensive and very necessary commodity that we have, and even a short visit to the hospital just to go get a flu shot or something can be very costly. In 1998, the cost of intensive care per year for a person was $140,000. So imagine 1 year times 15, that's a lifetime of debt. So why is intensive care so expensive? The money goes towards paying the nurses and doctors that come in and check up and take care of the patient while they're in a coma, and also the therapists that come in and give physical therapy, and also the use of the complex machinery, such as the feeding tube and the heart pumps and the lung pumps and stuff like that. So what do the nurses and doctors actually do? The nurses are actually the most diligent and patient with the patients, and they come in every day and change their clothes, brush their teeth, they apply makeup to help them look better if it's a woman, they fix hair, they clip toenails, they empty the urine bag, and they change the diaper. And also they have to reposition the patient in different positions every day in order to prevent bed sores from occurring. And also they have to make sure that they are fed through the tube each and every day. So when a family member is in a coma, it can create many family disputes and family disagreements. So who gets to decide? The parents have probably raised and taught the child their family values, their church values, and stuff like that. So a mother and a father can have a big say in what happens to their child because they raised them. But then again, if the person has been married for a while, then they have a spouse, then I'm sure the spouse got to know that family member a lot better than what the parents did. Because for me, I've shared many experiences and things with my wife that I haven't shared with my parents, and also things like I've already told her what should be done if I was ever in a coma, and she knows. So I've shared those things with my wife rather than my parents. So who gets to decide? But each case must be handled differently. For example, if the patient at some time didn't ever express what should happen to them, then and our parents don't know anything about it, and the husband doesn't know anything about it, then it could play a significant role in the fate of that person. Like in the case of Terri Schiavo, the husband didn't have much hope of her recovering and coming out of her coma, and he wanted to probably move on with his life and not have to be there every day for somebody that doesn't respond and is never going to recover. And I can understand where he's coming from in his situation, but if her husband only wanted to get remarried and to leave her, then I think that the parents should have been allowed to keep her alive and do what they want. The last thing that the people misunderstand is the condition of the patient. Many people just believe, like I said earlier, like it's a Snow White, where somebody is laying there and they're perfectly young and healthy and beautiful and nothing is wrong with them. But this is not the case. When a person is not doing anything to work their muscles become dystrophic, and they lose all of their mass and they become pretty much useless. So the muscles deteriorate, and in order to prevent this, they must be exercised, which is what the physical therapists try to do. They try to exercise the muscles and keep them in as good a condition as they can, so that the person, if they ever do come out of their coma, then they will be able to have some function. The person's health is also compromised. A small illness such as the flu can turn into pneumonia very quickly, and a person with no immune system will die very quickly just from pneumonia. So the person's health is actually in a very terrible state. They're sick all the time, they can get bed sores, they have no muscle mass. It's just a very sad situation for the person to have to lay there for so many years and suffer, of course. So in determining whether or not a person in a vegetative state will live or die can be extremely difficult and an emotional decision. If the afflicted person did not leave their will, stating, if I were in a coma, then this is what to happen to me, then the closest relatives must decide. And it can cause many problems. So a coma can also have the disadvantages of the cost of treatment and care, and also the health and well-being of the person lying in a coma. So I take a stand in saying that they should make a rule allowing a brief time period to see if the patient will recover and wake up. And for me, I've studied and researched this, and after a year, the prognosis of a person waking up is very, very slim. So I propose that after a year, a person should be allowed to pass on from this life and to not have to suffer and be in that situation anymore. But however, we should also sympathize with the family of the patient while in deciding the best interest of the coma patient.